I've started to hear this week, maybe we've heard it before, but about the question of reparations for trans people, right?
I had not heard this.
Oh, yeah, this is a great one because, of course,
yeah.
Look, reasonable people can disagree, and I think actually there is a very natural conversation to be had around reparations for American blacks, right? Mm-hmm. There is a long history of oppression. Yep. It is handed down through a lineage, and the question is, how do we right that wrong once and for all? And,
and very smart, very carefully considered people with very carefully considered opinions do actually disagree on this front. And I have heard arguments on both sides that are compelling to me.
Right. And in fact, I will say my position is an intermediate one, which is I think reparations are justified, but cash reparations are not going to work. And they create a bunch of new problems that will make things worse. So the question is, for example, how do we invest in communities to finally level the playing field, right, without creating an excuse for civilization to move on from the genuine harm that is a part of our history.
Yep.
So anyway, there is plenty of room for rational arguments. The problem is, it's just like all of these other things, right? Gays win legitimacy in society, and then a bunch of people follow them through the door with arguments that they claim are the same argument, just the next phase of it, but it's not the same argument. Women gain the ability to compete against each other without having to compete against men, and then a bunch of guys follow them through the door, and start beating them in the pool and bicycling and every other way.
Well, and it's not a metaphor if you take it out of sport and take it into actual safe spaces.
Oh, of course.
Domestic abuse shelters
right.
And such. And like, who followed me through the door? That's not a woman.
Right.
No, doesn't belong here. No.
100%. But the point is, okay, the reparations argument is on the table. Well, it's about time it's on the table, right? Whatever the right resolution of that question is. But the argument does not apply. This is again sophistry, right? Because trans people are not a lineage. So the point is the idea that if you are trans, in June of 2022, that you are therefore suffering the weight of oppression that has followed you through history. No, you probably became trans in 2022, or maybe it was 2021. But the point is the whole argument doesn't follow. And yet, again, it's like, I'm not wrong because it takes a little explaining to get there.
No, this is critical. I mean, we've talked about this not with regard to trans before, with regard to how sex and race are different. In fact, we talked about it a little bit last week, that sexism is real and racism is real, but they have some very important distinctions between them. And one of the ways to understand it is exactly as you just pointed out, sex is not a lineage. Everyone has an equal number of male and female ancestors. And there's going to be people who say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, you're thinking at the population level because you've heard that there are more, there are fewer males who have successfully reproduced in the past, which is true. So at the population level, not all men reproduce, but almost all women do. But at an individual level, you've got a mom and a dad, and so did both of your mom and dad, and so did on back forever. Like everyone had one mother, one father, therefore an equal number of male and female ancestors. And that means that woman is not a lineage. You've got an equal number of woman ancestors, whether or not you're woman or man, as you do man ancestors. Whereas race, which is messy because, again, as we talked about last week, it's reticulate and no races are pure. And I say that's a gross word to use here, and I put it in quotes and everything. But we're all, interbreeding all the time. And so, it's a very messy concept in humans, but there is a lineage component. And because it bears an external phenotypic marker, it has been used to abuse and keep down whole groups of people. Obviously, we all know this. Even the racist among us know this, right? That, there is a history of actual, slavery and institutionalized racism and things like this. But trans even more than sex, precisely because you are born a particular sex, and therefore, at least through your own developmental history, you may, if you're born in a particular moment under a particular situation, bear the brunt of like, shit, sorry, but like I was born female and that wasn't good here, and therefore a lot of bad things happened to me that wouldn't have happened if I were male. Trans, for most people who are calling themselves trans now, is a hat. It's a thing they're putting on. And so at the moment that they decide now I am, and I'm sure I was all along, maybe in some cases, yes, For some very rare cases, yes. But for most of you, to put it on and then say, now, gimme. Now I'm going to get what I'm due because of all the past oppression that I wasn't even around for. Nope, that's not how it works.
Yeah, I was going to say, what I said could sound callous about most of these folks maybe became trans in 2021 or 2022. But the point is actually that's the problem.
Right.
Trans is a real thing, and many people have been trans, for much of their lives. But the point is the contagious part of this, the socially contagious part, is a different phenomenon, which is what many of us, including people like Blair White and Buck Angel, are trying to say. Yeah. There's trans activism, which is a contagious movement, and there is trans, which is a much smaller group of people who genuinely wrestle with things. Still not a lineage.
Yeah.
Right.
Still not a lineage.
Still not a lineage.
That's right.
But nonetheless, those are two different categories.